What's going on, guys? It's Jake Camaro here with another episode of Flashback Friday for you, and I know it has been an extremely long time since I posted a non-Halo related Flashback Friday episode. I've been doing my Halo special ever since July or August of last summer, so it has been a very long time since I've kind of done a normal Flashback Friday video, and I wanted to get back into it because now that the holiday gaming season is pretty much over, my channel now is not going to be really related to the initial thoughts since I've got a lot of those out of the way. I'll still be putting up episodes of like some of the new games coming out this spring and DLC, of course, but it's going to be me a lot talking just about video games in general and not like initial thoughts or stuff like that. So, the game I chose for this episode of Flashback Friday is Medal of Honor, the 2010 version. The reason I chose this game is because tomorrow I'm going to be posting a video about Medal of Honor Warfighter, its sequel, which came out this past year, and I'm going to be talking about my top 5 reasons as to why I think it really was a failure in many regards. But I'll talk about that tomorrow in that video. So I'll just talk about Medal of Honor 2010 in this one. So Medal of Honor 2010. I'm gonna be calling it Medal of Honor in this video. It was released on October 12th, 2010 in North America, of course, and it was released on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the PC. It was developed by Danger Close and published by EA. Now, although I'm saying it was developed by Danger Close, another developer actually is DICE, and this is where this game gets a little complicated. So the campaign and multiplayer are pretty much separate games. I'll go into both of them a little bit later, but basically the single player was developed using the Unreal Engine and it was developed by Danger Close in their studio, and it was created for this game. It was most of the part that was marketed in this game, and it tells a story. And there's lots of gunfights and levels, and it's just a normal campaign, no co-op or anything like that. Then the multiplayer was actually developed by DICE, the people who are famous for creating the Battlefield series, and that was done on the Frostbite 1.5 engine. So the multiplayer and the single player look very different and run very different, and it makes it a little bit confusing. Both are pretty good, but I don't really understand why Danger Close did the campaign and DICE did the multiplayer. Now I know that Danger Close tried the multiplayer in Medal of Honor Warfighter, and I know it didn't really work out crazy good, so maybe that's one of the reasons why they didn't want to do it in this one. I don't know, I'm just speculating, but nevertheless, you're definitely going to be thinking about that once you go into this. It doesn't function a lot like Battlefield, the multiplayer. I don't think there's any vehicles or anything like that. There are like classes and unlocks and stuff and maps, of course, but they are pretty different games. So basically, this video is going to be very different sections. The single player and the multiplayer are not really related at all. So I'm going to have to go into graphics and gameplay for both sections, and I'm going to be treating them like pretty much two different games, even though, of course, they are part of the same game. So first of all, I'm going to go into the single player. Now, of course, the single player is what you're going to play first, and was really the main portion of Medal of Honor, because although the multiplayer is going to keep coming back, Danger Close developed this game pretty much, and I think they really wanted you to play the campaign. So I'm sure some people might not and go directly to the multiplayer, but I wouldn't recommend that because I think that the campaign is definitely this game's strong suit. So the campaign is set in modern day, and this is the first Medal of Honor to be set in modern day. The last Medal of Honor that came out before this was Airborne, and I think that came out quite a few years ago, and this was really considered a modern day reboot of the series. Of course, with its sequel, Medal of Honor Warfighter, which actually the same characters came back and such. So this is set in modern time, modern Afghanistan. The war that's going on right now or just ended. The war in the Middle East. And basically it just kind of covers sort of it's kind of true, but it's kind of not. It's based on a true story. It's set in a real setting, but the story and the characters are not true at all. So let's just kind of get into the plot line. There's really not a ton of plot lines. This is just your standard first-person shooter. Although the setting is pretty cool, The characters, there's not a lot of character development. It's not like something in Halo where you have like one character, Master Chief, of course, in a lot of the games, and you really get into like his personal like feelings and such. The characters in this, yeah, they're your squad mates, but you really don't find out very much about them. You're pretty much hunting in the Middle East for some people. And most like Medal of Honor Warfighter, the story isn't a huge deal here. It's pretty much just your standard kill these people kind of narrative, and you have to. I think actually, not to spoil anything, but the last few missions of the campaign are actually really good. I'm not going to say anything about them because that's kind of my policy. That's why you're actually seeing the first mission of the game right here. I'm not going to go into what happens later on. If you really want to look at that, you should go, and I'm sure that there's a lot of reviews and stuff that mention it. But I actually really enjoyed the last few missions of the story. It really kind of brought the story, the narrative together. And pretty much you're going to be playing as two different characters. And although their paths cross sometimes, you're really going to be playing in very different ways. You're going to be playing as a Special Forces, like Navy SEAL, and then you're going to be playing as just a normal United States Marine. And I think the story wraps up pretty good, but until you get to the end, it's going to be quite a bit confusing. But once it all kind of comes together, you kind of see where it goes. So if you can't understand the story, just give it a little time. But definitely coming into this, you're going to be very confused, and there's not going to be a ton of story to it. But really, the last couple of missions, I think, are the best in this game. There's some pretty cool gameplay mechanics for Medal of Honor. One mission actually has you in an ATV, and that was my favorite mission, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. You go hunting for some guys and like relay outposts during the middle of the night, and I think that section was really well done. Although it's not extremely long, I definitely enjoyed that. That's probably my favorite part of the campaign. Of course, there's just your gunplay. And although there's not a ton of weapons in the campaign of this game, they definitely feel very different. You've got your assault rifles, your shotguns, your sniper rifles, all of your standard weapons. And one interesting part about how you use your weapons is you actually have three. You have your primary, in this case my assault rifle. You have your secondary, in this case I have my 870 shotgun. And then your third is a set secondary, which you have unlimited ammo. And that kind of switches from mission to mission, and you can't trade that for anything or set what pistol you get. It's kind of just assigned to you, and you can't swap it out for anything. So you can't have like two assault rifles and a shotgun, for example. You can have pretty much two primaries and one secondary. I actually kind of liked this because you always had one gun to go back to if you ran out of ammo. And another interesting part about the ammunition is that you don't pick it up from the field. You actually go over to your teammates and you press X, and then they give you a ton of ammo. Now, actually, you can't do this like whenever you want. It has to be pretty close to when you're running out of ammo. So you're definitely going to want to keep that in mind before walking up to them. You got to make sure that you're almost out. You have your grenades and stuff like that. You can switch between single fire and rapid fire for some guns. Of course, the guns that are, of course, full auto, you can't get like a semi-automatic pistol, of course, unless you're using the G18. But one interesting part is, first of all, the headshot count. And as you can see, I just got a headshot, and it has a little headshot icon right there. And another thing is the heads-up display. Now, the heads-up display is very minimal. As you can see, there's pretty much nothing except for little markers on where you're supposed to go and the headshot indicator. You can press on the D-pad and turn it on, which I just did right there, and kind of see for just a second, but then it kind of goes away, and I actually really liked this. The HUD popped up when you wanted it to, it went away when you wanted it to. It was still very informative, but it really brought you into the game, and I actually really liked that part. Now, some people might not really enjoy that section, but if you want the HUD, just keep pressing on the D-pad, I guess. But it really immersed me, and I like that you can pretty much see everything with no random like numbers and such across the screen. The graphics, it runs Unreal Engine. It's not the best looking game I've ever seen, but some of the lighting is really good. Some parts where like fighting in the mountain, midday or dusk, is definitely very beautiful. Right now, the like nighttime scene that I'm showing is not really giving the game its true justice. But all in all, I think the graphics were pretty good. But of course, it's bested by some games, of course, like the Frostbite 2 engine. But I think for 2010, the graphics in this game were quite good. So now we've talked about the campaign, and now we're going to be getting into the multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer, like I said, is made by DICE, and it runs the Frostbite 1.5 engine. It looks a lot like Battlefield Bad Company 2. The graphics are pretty good. I don't think they're as good as the campaign. If I had to pick one of the two, I think I would pick the campaign's graphics. But of course, it's just your standard Frostbite engine. You got some minor destruction, not as much as Bad Company 2. And there's no vehicles, so that's a little interesting for like a Battlefield game. And the gunplay is pretty good. You don't have a ton of weapons, which is probably my one gripe with the multiplayer. There's just not that much to come back to. Of course, you have quite a few different maps, quite a few different game modes, and of course some weapons and maps are added as DLC. But I don't think that there's just that many weapons that you have to unlock. You got your standard M16s and AKs and shotguns and sniper rifles and such, but really it's not even close to what Battlefield 3 or even Medal of Honor Warfighter offered. I think all in all the multiplayer is pretty good. I played it quite a bit, but definitely this is not going to be the most long-lasting game you've ever played. Not coming close to like Battlefield 3 or Call of Duty. The multiplayer is something that you might want to play periodically, but there's not gonna be a huge incentive to keep coming back over and over again. You rank up to the top rank in each class pretty quickly. There's like 3 classes to unlock different attachments for guns. One thing I have to say about the multiplayer though is there are some balancing issues, unfortunately. I think these sniper rifles are just way too powerful. Think of them kind of like the Battlefield 3 sniper rifles, except no bullet drop and a one-hit kill like everywhere. So it's definitely something that if you want to get a lot of kills, use the sniper rifle, and you're just gonna get sniped a ton on these maps. There's just your standard kind of like Conquest or Rush like game modes. They're not exactly like Conquest or Rush in Battlefield games, and actually in a couple game modes you do have vehicles. So I was incorrect when I said it a few minutes ago. There are a couple vehicles, but there's not like jets or anything like that. I think you've got a tank, maybe an LAV, but it's not going to come close to the Battlefield type vehicles that you see in Battlefield 3, even Bad Company 2. The map size is probably small to medium size, no huge maps or anything like that. I think kind of like Battlefield 3, you're going to be seeing different parts of the maps based on what game mode you want to play. So one map with one game mode could be different than the same map and a different game mode. And I do definitely like that. You're going to want to be playing a lot of the different game modes to kind of see what every single map has to offer, and it really does have a little bit more replayability in the game. It really does need a little bit more replayability in the multiplayer. One thing to mention is when this game came out, there was a limited edition, like the pre-order stuff that EA always does, and this actually had early access to the Battlefield 3 beta, so that's a little interesting with like Medal of Honor Warfighter having the Battlefield 4 beta access. EA hasn't confirmed if it's just early access or if it's actually exclusivity to people who pre-ordered Medal of Honor Warfighter. But that's pretty much it. If you want to pick this game up nowadays, you could probably get it for like $15 to $20. It's pretty cheap, but I think it's definitely a pretty good first-person shooter, and the story is very good. Although the multiplayer isn't the longest, it's a nice refresher in a age of Call of Duty and Halo. And when I picked this game up last summer, I thoroughly enjoyed playing through it. This pretty much brings me to the end of my video. I would recommend this for people who just want to go out and play a good first-person shooter. It came out a couple years ago, so the online audience is still there, but it's not as huge as you might expect for like a first-person shooter. So if you like this video, thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.